Oh, hello. Welcome to today's video, when we're going to speculate about what's going to be coming in the third season of Kill Team. So let's talk about what can reasonably be assumed. Well, we know from the previews, and I've talked about on the channel, that we're getting a third season of Kill Team with the usual quarterly box releases. It's a reasonable assumption this is going to follow the pattern that we've had so far, where the first box comes with two all new, we'll call them artisanal teams, right, created for Kill Team, and some new terrain, and the terrain will be all new. Hopefully it'll be all new in all four boxes, that would be brilliant, but it could well be repeated with an upgrade sprue like Season 2, we'll see. But the remaining boxes are likely to have a single all-new team, and then a team comprised of an existing kit with an upgrade sprue. And they might well break that pattern for Season 3, we don't know yet, but for the purpose of this video, I'm going to assume they're going to carry on with their pattern, because Games Workshop loves a pattern. We can also kind of say that each box usually contains an Imperial team. There has been, I think, only one exception to that, Nakmund, which was Chaos Space Marines versus Eldar. But even in that case, it contained a team that scanned as good. Like, I could, and I haven't predicted this, but I could buy a box that was Chaos versus Eldar, or Chaos versus Tau, or Tyranids versus Tau, or Orcs versus Tau, or Orcs versus Eldar, because the Eldar and the Tau, purely visually, right, they have smooth surfaces, they look more like good guys. I don't think you'll see two very spiky teams against each other. That's my kind of thought there. So first we're going to talk about the terrain. There's a lot going on this slide, and there's no text, and I kind of need to explain it. So a lot of people, big names in the Kill Team sort of sphere, have been rumouring quite heavily that it's going to be jungle. Now, I've not wanted to buy into these rumours wholesale for a long time, because Catachans versus Lictors in a jungle has been the rumour for the next Kill Team box since Octarius came out. Legitimately, that has been what everybody has been kind of trying to manifest with all of their willpower in the world since Octarius came out. Is it finally on its way? It's potentially possible. I've seen a couple of things from different places that lead me to believe that we're getting science fiction Vietnam. So I've included a picture from the film Apocalypse Now, just so people know what I'm envisaging when I think of science fiction Vietnam. Right? Now, I don't care if anyone's going to come into the comments and tell me that Apocalypse Now is not a realistic depiction of Vietnam. Right? You can guarantee that when people in Nottingham, England are thinking about Vietnam, they're just thinking about the film Apocalypse Now. Right? It doesn't matter, okay? Because it's not really about pastiching actual history, it's about pastiching famous old war movies, and it always has been, okay? So this is what I'm kind of thinking. We got water, we got the jungle, and we got some structure-y bits. Yeah? You look at the picture here. This is officially to do with Kill Team. What have we got? We got some structure-y bits in the background. We got water, right? And we've got some jungly bits. I very much think, okay, we're getting a sort of science fiction Vietnam, especially as, you know, even the look of the few lone towers of structure bits, they look really similar to these as well, right? I really think that that's quite possibly what we're going to get, a sort of science fictionized version of Vietnam as portrayed in popular media. Right, I'm going to add in this little piece of evidence. So this is apparently from, this is from Chapter Master Valrak's stream, but it's from the Indomitus book. I wonder if one of the people that have got the Indomitus book or have seen it in the local shop could confirm this, but I think that's where it's come from. And these are talking about the soul blades, which are apparently like forces led by legendary heroes that are going around fighting the Tyranids. Anyway, let's read this one together. Faced with impossible Tyranid numbers along the central advanced passage of Promethor Tendril, Soulblades centered around Vanguard and Catachan jungle fighter formations have switched tactics. Instead of direct confrontation, they're instead imparting to loyal Imperial forces as much training in guerrilla warfare, both surface-based and naval as possible. The Soul Blades then move on. Each time they leave small corps of volunteers to aid in guerrilla ops. Successful resistance to Xenos encroachment measured at 23%. Increased efficacy across 7 worlds to date. Now, why did they just drop naval in there? Why did they drop naval in there? Why is it the Kasachan Jungle Fighters and the Raven Guard? Why are they going around training up local people? Why is it guerrilla warfare? It sounds like science fiction Vietnam, doesn't it? Isn't that what it sounds like? And let's look at this. So this is from the Warhammer Plus Combat Patrol. And maybe this means nothing, right? I don't know. This is from the Warhammer Plus Combat Patrol Battle Report. And they've got jungle terrain. I don't know. Right? So maybe jungle was kind of just going around in the studio and they thought, oh, we'll do a cool jungle. But I'm not saying this is the terrain. That's not what I'm saying. This all looks like bespoke stuff made by like the events team or something, right? But this isn't featured in any of the art in the books. When they play their bigger games on Warhammer Plus, they use the brown Morok terrain that we've seen a lot with this release. But for Combat Patrol, they got this cool jungle board. Does any of this mean anything? I don't know. But am I going to put my marker down on saying that we're going to get sci-fi Vietnam with, like, what's water going to do? Are you going to be able to wade through the water? Are you going to be able to... I mean, water's quite interesting in Kill Team, I guess, because it hinders movement, but not... It's like the opposite of a wall, right? Because it hinders your movement, but it doesn't hinder your visibility. So the board can be a lot more open, right? A lot more shooting, a lot less maneuvering. It's going to be maybe it's going to be a foil to melee teams. We're going to bring back the shooting team superiority, but then maybe you can go in the water and you can like hide in the water. But then if you hide I don't know. I really don't know how it would work. But I could see it. Games Workshop hasn't, like, water, ponds, lakes, rivers is a classic piece of wargaming terrain because it does something different to a ruin or a forest. It affects movement. It doesn't really affect shooting. I could see Games Workshop wanting to create some plastic water, as stupid as that sounds, right? Because it's interesting, it provides a wrinkle that isn't already catered for in their terrain line. They've got some things from memory, like chimeras used to be amphibious, and they could have, I don't know, it kind of fits. Would it be usable in 40k? I mean, if you look at the Warcry terrain boxes they did 4 boxes, and then at the end of that they said, hey, you can use these to make an Age of Sigmar table. Would it be an optimal, like, elite tournament player, like, competitive 40k table? Yeah, probably not, because they want, as far as I can tell, windowless, featureless, blocking terrain to shut down shooting armies, and the idea that you would take up space on your valuable table with something that didn't really affect shooting is probably anathema to that portion of the community. Does that mean Games Workshop won't do it? No. I just think we got a decent chance of getting science fiction Vietnam, and I'm just really struck by the similar... I didn't even go looking for that. I just Googled Apocalypse Now River, right? And got this picture from Apocalypse Now, and I was just struck by how similarly composed this is in a lot of ways to this, with the water in the middle and the bits of structure in the background, and then there's... I mean, in this one it's foregrounded, but that bit of leaf there, that looks very like one of these palm leaves up here. Doesn't it? Doesn't it? Am I, you know, this here, right? That here, there's the stem, and there are the fronds going off it. Is that not this? Isn't it? And then you've got these things in the background. Are these not the... You know, and you've even got bits of fire. Well, you know, I mean... It did... You be the judge. You be the judge and let me know in the comments, but I'm putting my marker down on science fiction Vietnam, right, as being the thing that we're going to get. So with that in mind, let's talk about the teams. So the teams for Box 1, look, I'm not going to go against the Valrak rumours. Valrak has a source, right? All credit where credit's due. Chapter Master Valrak, for all he you may have, you may not enjoy his content, his delivery style, he has a damn good source. And so he has said that Striking Scorpions versus Space Marine Scouts is coming in Box 1, and he was 110% right about Ashes of Faith. So there's no reason not to suspect he's not 110% right about this. Now, he said nothing about the terrain. Do I look at these armies and think that is in for? Could I see these two armies fighting across a sci-fi Vietnam landscape? Yeah. Yeah. I don't think there's a problem with that at all. I think they'd work really, really well. And if I remember, go back to this fluff, it's all about the Caschans and the Raven Guard in this little bit of fluff. If this is a tie-in, and it could not be, but if it is, well, these could be Raven Guard scouts. Now, I'm not saying they're going to be like Raven Guard in the rules, but just like the Phobos guys were Ultramarines on the box cover, all I'm saying with that is, if they're Raven Guard on the box cover, right, when box 1 comes out, that lends credence in my mind in the weird, and maybe I'm the mad guy with the red string on the board with the pins, I don't know, but that lends credence in my mind. If they're Raven Guard in that illustration, then we're going to get a Caschan team. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about a Caschan team. You know, I've talked about a Caschan team before. I did a video not long ago talking about what teams could we get based on what plastic kits needed a refresh. And since then, we got an Inquisition team, and now we've been rumoured a Striking Scorpions team and a Scouts team, and now I'm saying a Jungle Fighters team. Look how hideous this kit is. And yet, Caschan Jungle Fighters have been rumoured for a long time. And then when the Imperial Guard Codex came out at the tail end of last edition, people were like, there's no new rules there. So there's no new rules there, so that means they're not going to redo the kit. Well, Games Workshop knew that book was going to be around for about 10 minutes. Right? They didn't get rid of the Caschan Jungle Fighters. They didn't pull them from the range. What if, when the Imperial Guard Codex does finally come out for 10th edition, which isn't going to be soon, but what if when it does, it has really cool Caschan Jungle Fighters in it? You know? Hey, they could have a big heavy flamer. They could have guys with those cool dueling glaives like we've seen in the Inquisitorial Warband. They could have all sorts of mad bits and pieces, right? You can't have sci-fi Vietnam without doing the Caschan Jungle Fighters. They've done 3 limited edition miniatures for the Caschans, haven't they? No, 2 limited edition miniatures and a regular, like there's Sly Marbo, there's the Caschan Colonel that's basically Carl Weathers, and then there's I've got it over here somewhere. There's this one, right? Ripper Jackson, right? Who all kind of look like they're from the movie Predator. Which is... Predator's technically in Central America and not in Vietnam, but it's still basically the same idea, right? It's sci-fi Vietnam, and there's and the Caschans themselves going back, obviously based on Vietnam era, like American infantry, like, aren't they? So... it's a thing, it's a shoo-in. If I'm right about the terrain, you can't not do the Caschans in that instance, can you? Like, you must. So, yeah, there's going to be Caschans, surely. And we know Games Workshop loves a human team. Like, there's going to have to be, in a season, there's going to be at least one team of human men with a comms and a sniper and a medic. They've got to do it. I know it's nobody's favourite, right? Everyone's going to be like, oh, that's really boring. Do something cool and original. Some people, like this guy, like the 10-man human teams with a plasma gun and a comms and a medic and a sniper and all that stuff, So you got to give everybody something. Maybe that's the role Caschans are going to play, right? They're going to be the Krieg or the Breachers of this season. Yeah. Eyes of the Emperor. So this has been whispered around for a while. Different people have been rumouring the Eyes of the Emperor for Kill Team. I'm just going to read. This is taken verbatim from Lexicanum, and so's the image, because I know a lot of people are going to be like, what the flip is an Eyes of the Emperor? You can go on Lexicanum and read this out, and all credit to them, but I'm just going to read it out for you now. So it says here, the Eyes of the Emperor have chosen to end their service with the Adeptus Custodes after their advanced age or physical wounds prevent them from serving at the same ability as their brethren. Some have lost limbs, artificial eyes, or augmetic organs, lessening their abilities. Afterwards, They surrender all their equipment to the Hall of Armaments and vanish into the void of the galaxy, clad in hooded black robes. However, this is not the end of their service to the Custodes, as wherever they travel, the eyes of the Emperor constantly watch for threats that could harm Terra and the Emperor. They do this either by working alone or cultivating networks of informants and agents, using fear and intimidation to secure compliance where loyalty and honour will suffice. Regardless of their methods, though, once a threat has been identified, the eyes of the Emperor will use secret channels to communicate a warning to the Custodes Captain General. These warnings result in the Adeptus Custodes launching punitive and often preemptive strikes throughout the Imperium, with the eyes of the Emperor sometimes aiding them in battle. So you've got Custodes guys that actually do the kind of operative wet work that Kill Team is famous for, and they wear black hooded robes. They don't have all the gold armor and the equipment, so they're going to be less elite than Custodes, but they're still physically, genetically, old, but they're going to be these huge guys in these robes, okay, and they're capable of fighting it. Sometimes they aid the Custodes in battle when they turn up, right? This kind of fits with a Space Vietnam theme, right? You got CIA agents running around in Vietnam doing mad stuff, and the Custodes do need more kits, more plastic kits for their codex, right? You know, the Custodes have so few kits over in 40k, and not to go on about it, but they were just got exempt from the massive Forge World cull that happened. So, yeah, I think the eyes of the Emperor make a lot of sense for the second, or fourth, depending on how we're counting it, all new team for this season. And so finally, we're going to go to what I've called Vanguard organisms. So this isn't a firm prediction, really. We know we're getting new Tyranids, and we know that Gene Stealers and Lictors need new kits for sure. We also know that the Von Ryan's Leapers from the Leviathan box set, they're probably going to get a multi-part, like full single release at some point, right? Unless they just rebox the ones from the box, but usually things from start to sets get improved releases later on. One of those could come out in a Kill Team box. There's not really a rule that says they won't paywall a unit from a new codex and stick it in a Kill Team box. They did exactly that with the Kazakin. They were a really desirable unit for the brand new Imperial Guard codex, and they were available first in a big Kill Team box. They could do exactly the same thing for Tyranids. I don't think they'd do it to the Space Marines, but they'd do it to the Tyranids, right? And Tyranids in a jungle, these kind of Tyranids make jungles. Maybe the Tyranid, because they hyper-stimulate the biosphere, don't they? Maybe the jungle in the science fiction Vietnam that we have was originally created by the Tyranids. I mean, this whole thing would tie in. Look, Kill Team is notorious for tying in vaguely thematically with what's going on in 40k, but not really, right? Like, the first season of Kill Team opened on Octarius, which was the current big setting in 40k, but then didn't really stay there or feature the Tyranids that were supposed to be a big part of Octarius. And the second season of Kill Team was all about fighting on Space Hulks at exactly the same time that the Arks of Omen were being tracked down, and they were Space Hulks. Of course, the Gallowfall did not turn out to be one of the Arks of Omen, so again, it was really close to what was going on in the 40k lore, but like not quite exactly the same thing. And so again, Tyranids are the big bad in 40k. I can't see them being again like totally ignored in Kill Team. I mean, it's possible, because ignoring the Tyranids when really you should have Tyranids has been a meme since they set the first box on Octarius. But Tyranids of some sort. Probably like the low hanging fruit here is just to say, oh yeah, the Gene Stealers. It'll be blood it would be blood if any of them are really paywalled into Kill Team boxes, but Gene Stealers are so cool and iconic. Like, I think a lot of Tyranid players will be genuinely upset if alongside their new Tyranid release, Gene Stealers are in a Jack Kill Team box and nowhere else. But it being a bad idea doesn't mean the Games Workshop won't do it, and anybody that says, oh, but that would be such a bad idea, but they did exactly the same thing with Kazakin. Right alongside a brand new Guard release, they knew they were going to be massively popular. Nah, stick them in a Kill Team box. So it could happen. It could happen. Gene Stealers are a lot like Kazakin, right? Really popular, but kind of slightly sideways to the main body of the army. It could definitely happen. So now we get into the 3 upgrade sprue teams that we think we're going to have. And the first one I'm going to go for is the Jackals. So, okay, World Eaters lack representation within Kill Team. Most armies have something in Kill Team. The World Eaters don't. The Jackals is definitely a modern kit that could use an upgrade sprue. You might say it's too modern to get an upgrade sprue, but hey, the Votann got an upgrade sprue recently, so it could definitely happen here. Kill Team definitely needs more lightly armoured melee-focused teams. Well, it doesn't. But Games Workshop, again, don't let the ideas a little bit stupid put you off. We're assessing how likely Games Workshop is to do something with its acknowledged kind of slightly odd way of looking at things. I know there'll be World Eater players that really want Khorne Berserkers, but to me these feel more likely because they're a 10-man human team, which is easier to balance for Kill Team. I say that, if they're a melee-focused 10-man human team, chances are they'll be really good, much like the Beastmen and the Gelapox and the other Chaos Cult that we recently got. And now, this is going to be the new refrain. People are like, oh, so many Imperial Guard teams. Not all from the Imperial Guard, but I take the point. And now people are going to be going, oh, so many Chaos Cultist teams. When can we have 6 Orc teams? I mean, I get it. I get why you'd think that, but it's just... It's not a complaint that's based in an understanding of reality, so you get the Rowan Atkinson voice, okay? Plague Marines. I've just said that Khorne Berserkers are unlikely to come, and then here I am saying, oh, but Plague Marines, they're really likely. And I do like Plague Marines, it's true, and there are biases, and we can't eliminate all of our biases, because they're just happy little things that sit in our brains like scrap code and make us do random stuff. But I like to think I've picked Plague Marines with a little bit of a reason and logic behind it. Like, if you look through you couldn't make a kill team out of Poxwalkers, which I guess are the equivalent to Jackals, because it's kind of a horrible kit of, like, little weird monopose-ish guys. But the Plague Marines kit is really the only thing that you could do for Death Guard if you wanted to do an upgrade sprue. Now look, we've said for ages that Death Guard would make a great White Dwarf style team or Annual style team if you added in a few of their characters, and I stand by that. You absolutely could. And those Space Marine Heroes Death Guard that just came out in theory yesterday, although mine are still in the post somewhere. But still, they would have made a really good kill team if Games Workshop had been inclined to put out some rules for them. Hasn't happened. But I still think a Plague Marine kill team is on the cards. Presumably Games Workshop feels that if they want to do it, they're going to do it with an upgrade sprue, and so that is how we'll see the team. In terms of what could be on that upgrade sprue, I reckon I modelled on Plague Bell. If anyone's played Compendium Death Guard, the Plague Bell guy was a mandatory thing that you always took the equipment, the bell, in your list because it created a bubble through which your Death Guard could move at a normal speed. I could definitely see that piece of equipment, as has happened so many times before in other Compendium teams, being worked up into a full specialist. Obviously there are other bits and pieces there as well, maybe new weapons for the leader, you know the drill. But I could see bespoke Plague Marines coming via the medium of an upgrade sprue. And the last one, and it's a bit out of left field, Primaris Deathwatch with an upgrade sprue. More Space Marines, again. Just because something's stupid doesn't mean Games Workshop aren't going to do it. This is exactly Games Workshop's kind of stupidity, as I've included with this wonderful, I love this image, this wonderful quote from Facebook, from the official 40k community team, where someone complains that more Space Marines, and in complete self-knowing hilariousness, the community manager just goes, "Are you new here? Love it," right? Intercessors, plus a new upgrade sprue. I mean, they can sell you another box of Intercessors and you'll buy it, I'll buy it, we'll all buy it, to go with the millions of other Intercessors. And we probably tell lies to ourselves like, I'm not even a Space Marine player. Like, if you are 40k adjacent, a Space Marine army just appears in your house like mold. Okay? Because you go, oh, that's a really good deal, that's quite a nice kit, and then you have it, right? And I know there's already a Deathwatch upgrade sprue. I'm not talking about a wimpy little upgrade sprue with a few shoulder pads on. I'm talking about a big full-size kill team upgrade sprue with guns and stuff, right? So you can give one of your Primaris Intercessor guys a heavy bolter with an underslung flamethrower that's big enough for his beefy Primaris arms. And yeah, you'd have to include 6 Deathwatch shoulder pads on there, but you could just use the CAD files from the other ones that you'd already designed and stick them elsewhere on the sprue. It's not beyond the wit of man. And yeah, that means there'd be two teams that were basically intercessors. There'd be the Deathwatch intercessors and there'd be the intercessors from the PDF. And people would say, oh, this is a bit problematic and lazy, isn't it? But then again, I refer you to the idea that Space Marines, right? Like, yeah, we can just have another Space Marine team. That's probably fine. And we can balance it because Primaris Deathwatch wouldn't have to have, like, the chapter tactics. They wouldn't have to have that. They'd have other stuff instead. They'd have a heavy bolter with a flamethrower on the bottom of it. They could have a cool shield. You could have a Zeno. I mean, basically the Deathwatch Veterans kit that exists for the little mini Marines, but glued onto Primaris fellows. And then you've basically redone the core troops for like a whole army in 40k just by doing a kill team upgrade sprue, and then you can go on to sell bleeding loads of those boxes to people that have Deathwatch armies and want their Marines to be the right height. Yes? Potentially. So this is the consolidated predictions that I'm doing. So the autumn box, box 1 of the season, Space Marine Scouts versus Striking Scorpions, as per Mr. Valrak, fair play to him. The winter box will be Vanguard Organisms versus the Primaris Deathwatch. Spring will be the Eyes of the Emperor versus the Jackals, and summer the Katachan Jungle Fighters versus the Plague Marines. Each box is scans as good versus evil. Please don't write the screed in the comments about how there are no good guys in 40k. Yeah, academically I know that, but we're talking superficially. You have a good guy and an evil guy in every box, right? On a superficial, super visual level, basic broad strokes thematic stuff, that's how they like to do it. Yeah, it's all a grim pastiche, and I'd rather be an orc than a space marine, because at least the orcs are moral or something. I get it, but that's not what this video's about. And hopefully what no video on this channel that isn't behind the membership paywall will ever be about, to be fair. And then in sorting out, how have you come up with the order of these last 3 boxes? Is it random? Well, it's semi-random. The Tyranid and the Space Marine Codex are due in autumn, so I assume the Vanguard Organisms would want to come out pretty close to autumn, maybe near the start of the winter quarter, you know, so that the Tyranid players aren't waiting for 100 years to get whatever it is, Plastic Gene Stealers or a Plastic Lictor. And then we know the Custodes Codex is coming out in spring, so I thought it would be nice to have the Eyes of the Emperor coming in spring, so they could come out vaguely nearby to their codex. I mean, that's how I'd do things. It's how Games Workshop have done things with Kill Team. Occasionally, you know, the Corsairs came out sort of near the Eldar Codex, and the Commandos came out sort of near the Orc Codex, and the Pathfinders came out nowhere near the... No, they came out sort of near the Tau Codex as well, didn't they? It was the Novitiates that just came out and got a PDF data sheet. Like, it's not a hard and fast rule, but I think most of the time Games Workshop likes to try and maybe tie one of the teams sometimes. Less so with Season 2. To be fair, when have they tied a Season 2 team in near a 40k release? Is it never? Let's think. Navy versus Crew? No, that wasn't near anything. Arbites and Dark Eldar? No, that wasn't near anything. Necrons versus the thing that was in the box with the Necrons that I've temporarily forgotten that someone's already shouting at the screen. Soul Shackle. So Kazakin, of course. Now, that was near a release. Yes, it was. So that's my example of it still happening today, last season, to make it relevant, right? And then the Votan versus the Beastman. Well, I mean, no, not really. But yeah. So it happened once in Season 2. Happened 3 or 4 times in Season 1 now, I feel. So I've looked at that, and then summer, the Kashan Jungle Fighters versus the Plague Marines. I mean, one of those 2 codexes might be out in the summer. The 40k roadmap only goes up to spring, so we don't know what's happening in that quarter. I just thought that worked thematically. Look, this is not inside information. This is not a leak. This is a very, very warm man's... is absolutely ridiculous. Especially because I love you, and so I've turned off my fan, and I love my family, so I've closed the door. So I'm now in a rapidly boiling tiny room as I record this video. But yeah, this is just one very warm man's predictions of what might be coming in the future. Before all of that, we're getting an annual. This is an no expenses spared artist's rendition of the cover of the 2023 Kill Team Annual. That's definitely not the Radio 3 ident that I quickly Googled and put on the front of the cover there. But we are getting a new annual. I would not get particularly excited about the new annual. The new annual is for filthy casual. I mean, the new annual is for people that haven't been monomaniacally buying everything with the Kill Team logo on since the inception of Kill Team. So it's going to be reprints of all the Season 2 teams. That's been said. That's going to take up a whole whack of pages. It's going to be a consolidation of all the Kill Team articles from White Dwarf since the last annual. There's been loads of Kill Team stuff in White Dwarf, and simultaneously there's been nothing for Kill Team in White Dwarf, because there's been nothing for Kill Team for people who play matched play, competitive play, balanced play, whatever we're calling it when you actually play Kill Team the way that we on this channel and other channels on the internet tend to talk about playing Kill Team. There's been absolutely bags of stuff for people who play narratively that everybody on the internet ignores, rightly or wrongly. I do intend to do some narrative stuff with Ashes of Faith, but the one time I tried to do narratives things from White Dwarf in Kill Team, it was the Sentries stuff, and the Sentries stuff was kind of bad, which kind of puts the guy off getting the models together to try the other things. Maybe I will. Maybe I'll do it for this month's White Dwarf content, which is a fun 3-way campaign thing with, like, an NPC team. I haven't got White Dwarf yet. It's probably coming. Maybe, though, in the annual. Sorry, we're supposed to be talking about the annual. I'm getting heatstroke. We're supposed to be talking about the annual. There might be, like, 4 pages of brand new content. If they're really cheeky, they'll put, like, 4 pages. Maybe they'll put a new team in. Just one brand new team, so that everybody like me has to put their hand in the pocket and buy the annual and get 57 pages of things that they've already read and, like, 4 pages of something new. You know, that could happen. Be interesting. The annual's supposedly due out really soon. We'll see. And I'll cover it on the channel when it is previewed and we know more. But just to remind you, it's on the cards. The other thing on the cards is, wow, that was really unprofessional. I right-click next. Didn't need to do that. That was in the video. We're keeping it. The last thing I want to talk about is Warhammer Heroes. So I've talked about this at length. Post-Fest. This is the other Space Marine team we're getting this year because, Space Marine teams. These are apparently due out at the end of September because I think a Alchemist's Workshop put them up for pre-order already with that date. Now, you might say, well, there's no way they know that for sure. They've just made that date up. Who knows what's going on? I'm guessing, and it is my speculation, that Games Workshop wants to sell these miniatures through channels additional to its usual offering, places like Forbidden Planet, where if you Forbidden Planet, for those of you not in the UK, it's like a comic and collectibles store, but they have like huge sections devoted to just blind bags, like the Simpsons blind bags, 10 kinds of Disney blind bags, blind bags for IPs that I've never even heard of before. Fair chance that Warhammer wants to get these into shops like that. Shops like that don't want to be fucked around in the same way that Games Workshop fucks around its actual like retail customers with it. It's like, oh, we're only telling you what's coming out like a week ahead of you ordering it. Shops, big shops, actual like proper things, like demand to know, or you want us to carry a thing, you're going to go through the same normal distribution channels as everything else. So presumably that's why we know in advance when the Space Marine Heroes are coming out. Or I'm talking out of my arse and Alchemist Workshop was making it up. Who can say? But whatever I think the end of September kind of fits, right? I expect these to sit totally apart from the season teams. This is just going to be an extra team supported by a PDF release that's going to come out and give us some more content for the game that we love if you're watching this channel, right? I mean, hey, no, maybe you just came in for the Horus Heresy video and then I uploaded a new video and you're like, what? It's not more Horus Heresy. No, mainly it's going to be Kill Team. Sorry about that. Please don't unsubscribe. Final thoughts. Please rate my predictions in the comments, right? I have gone out on a limb and made up some stuff that I think is grounded in a vaguely fact-based assessment of the tea leaves and entrails that Games Workshop leaves us to interpret. Please, though, if you think that they are wrong, let me know and tell me why and make your own counter predictions. Please don't write, I don't think it's going to be the Jackals with an upgrade sprue, because I personally wouldn't like that. And I'm going to predict the thing that I'd like, because I get it. You'd like other things. Lots of people would like other things. We're trying to predict, not wishlist. I try and draw that line. It's a different thing. If we were wishlisting, I've told you, it will be Imperial tax collectors, Imperial tax collectors, Imperial tax collectors, and Imperial tax collectors from like different departments. So you'd have like the ones that went to agricultural, like planets and units, and had like a water purity guy, right, and an environmental assay. You know, you'd have ones that went into hive worlds, okay, testing the purity of the hooch and counting how many lasguns have been made and this sort of thing. You know, Imperial tax collectors. But we're not wishlisting; we're predicting. Please, if you've enjoyed the video and you have enjoyed the fact that I am suffering in this unseasonable, well, it's not unseasonable, it feels unseasonable, but I have to face up to the fact that we are approaching summer. I hate summer so much. It's very warm, so you can reward me for suffering by subscribing. I've nearly hit 1,300 subscribers, and then 2 people unsubscribed, and I've become inconsolable. So it would be great if you're watching this, if you could just resubscribe if you're those 2 people and you're still watching this. That would be really, really good, because round numbers are great. I've already asked you to comment. Join the Discord. The Discord's fantastic, and you can participate in the Inquisitional Kill Team Challenge. That's fun as well. Become a member and send me money every month if that's something that you just have too much money, if it's a burden to you. And you do get some perks as well, extra specially bits and pieces. Click the join channel button and you'll get the sales pitch. I'm not going to do it now. Thanks everybody. That's it. That's the whole video. We're done. Press the like button. That's the other one. Yeah, right. I'm gonna go and turn the fan back on, open the door, and then go to bed where I won't sleep. I will look at the ceiling and go, gosh, it's warm, and my wife will go, yes, and then yeah, I hate that weather. Bye bye. Bye.